At this time, we ask that you please silence all electronics and refrain from using flash photography for the duration of the ceremony. Now please enjoy one more song by our Texas A&M choral groups. Good evening. It's a beloved sight to see all of the Aggie family gathered in Reed Arena once again to muster. As Aggies come together in all parts of the world, we pause to acknowledge the many fortunes that came our way this past year. In our fellowship, we also pause to remember those who are absent. May we have a deep appreciation for the great examples and sacrifices given by those whom we honor by silent mourning. We wish for strength to try to do our tasks better in service to humanity, our university, our family, and our friends. In the trials the past has brought us, we take our moment to reflect on the hardships and our perseverance. We reflect on what it means to be a Texas Aggie, a timeless and evident truth to us all, with a quote from Lieutenant General Ormond R. Simpson, class of 1936. You are confident without being cocky, proud without being arrogant, competent without being overbearing, considerate but never subservient, steadfast but not stubborn, humble in victory, gracious in defeat. You are imaginative and creative. You're not afraid to leave the crowd and make your own way alone. If you stumble and fall, you don't look for someone to blame. Rather, you pick yourself up and carry on. You are always your own person, never anyone else's. Being a Texas Aggie is not of the flesh, but of the spirit. In a very real sense, it is a state of mind. This Aggie spirit is both your heritage and your challenge. So with this, may we reflect on the lessons and strengths gleaned from this year, honor those who are no longer with us, but who will always remain in our hearts and spirit, and allow for this occasion to bring a new inspiration to us all.
Good evening, and please be seated. On behalf of the Aggie Muster Committee and Texas A&M University, it is my honor to welcome you to the 2022 Aggie Muster Campus Ceremony. Tonight, we gather to continue the tradition and carry the torch that has been passed on for over 100 years. We are joined by other musters across the state, country, and nation, all with the same purpose and goal: to softly yet firmly answer here for our fallen Aggies. Tonight, we celebrate those lives well lived and join with Aggies of all ages to honor them. I would like to take a moment to thank all of you for being here tonight. To the class of 1972, it is my sincere pleasure to welcome you back to Aggieland on your 50th class reunion. This place has no doubt changed in looks, but I can promise you that the Aggie spirit you nurtured during your time here 50 years ago is alive and well. It is an honor to be able to share in camaraderie with you on this day, and I hope that we have made you proud to return home. To the current students, I would like to especially welcome you back to Reed Arena. We have had a couple of years hiatus, with 2020 being all of online and a hybrid ceremony last year, both in Reed Arena and Kyle Field. But seeing you all here tonight brings me back to my freshman year experiencing Aggie Muster for the first time. Whether this is your first campus muster or last as a current student, I encourage you to embrace this evening and discover, or perhaps even rediscover, what it means to you to be an Aggie. To our big extended Aggie family, thank you all for choosing to be here tonight. The Aggie family transcends our campus community, and your presence is ever a reminder of how strong the bonds are that we share simply because we are Aggies. And to our honored families, know that you do not experience this loss alone. In fact, over 10,000 Aggies have joined us tonight, both in person and online, to show what love we have for you and your family. I hope that tonight, some of the darkness that has entered your life will be replaced by the lighting of every candle here this evening. Tonight, we will acknowledge your loved one once more, gone, but most certainly not forgotten. Above all else, tonight we will experience the Aggie spirit in its truest form. a form of the Spirit that can ne'er be told. This tradition has changed and evolved over the years, yet always remained true to its purpose. We gather here to remember the Aggies, who, though absent in body, are forever present in spirit. We reaffirm our commitment on this April day to honor but never forget. Tonight is Aggie Muster.
Thank you all for being here tonight and participating in what I believe to be the most meaningful and moving Aggie tradition. Muster is a time to remember those we've lost. At the same time, it's a chance to embrace what we share with all Aggies, past, present, and future. As we gather, so do Aggies around the world. It's an inspiring reminder that we stand for something larger than ourselves. The loyalty to each other is a connection that binds all Aggies, always connected. No matter the place or circumstance, our loyalty compels a here when the time comes. We remember the departed as Aggies in the fullness of their lives, as part of our community, and in everything that gave them happiness and purpose. In our memories, we can find comfort and perhaps even joy. And while there's sadness and grief for those we've lost, we're also here to commemorate their lives and their accomplishments. Our commitment to each other is a bond that transcends the varied stories, backgrounds, and experiences of the names on the roll call. And although only the departed's name is called, we also embrace their families and friends and renew the lifelong dedication that we have to each other. We're here tonight to remember, to honor, and to ensure the legacy of these and so many other Aggies endure. In 1956, General Rudder ended muster with the following statement, which still holds true today. As we leave this muster here, let us join together as Aggies in the firm resolve to discharge our day-to-day duties in a manner that will be in keeping with the heritage handed down to us by those we honor here today.
It starts with a howdy, and it ends with a here. I recall the very first time that I ever heard this expression, and I remember how much it initially impacted me. One of my best friends is a member of Traditions Council, which is a student organization here on campus that seeks to preserve and promote the traditions of Texas A&M through outreach and education. So in this sense, I would say that my friend was pretty knowledgeable about all the different types of traditions on this campus. But when he talked about Aggie muster specifically, he explained to me the notion that every student begins their Aggie experience with the greeting otherwise known as howdy and ends it with the word here. Howdy is, of course, one of the first statements that you will be met with upon stepping foot in Aggie land, as it is, of course, the official greeting of Texas A&M. Here is how we respond as an audience when the speaker of muster addresses us during the roll call for the absent. And if this is your first muster, then you will soon experience how this works. The names of those who have died in the past year will be read, and as each name is called, a family member or friend will answer here to show that that Aggie is present in spirit. In this particular setting that is the campus muster, it is every single one of y'all who will respond here in unity. The people we are honoring today started their Aggie experience with a howdy, and they're completing it with a here. But quite honestly, I've come to realize that there's never truly an end point to your time as an Aggie, and this is a big piece of what muster is about. Because even after a loved one's physical presence has departed this earth, their memories, their names, their impacts, and the many positive ways that they made people feel are going to be memorialized in our hearts and our minds forever. To me, this is truly what the Aggie spirit represents, and why for hundreds of years to come, the flame that is the Aggie spirit will continue to burn. Despite the tumultuous nature of the past 2 years, the Aggie family, and in turn, the Aggie spirit, are alive and well. While Texas A&M and the entirety of our world and lived experiences have certainly changed over the course of a pandemic and, quite honestly, too many major world events to name, the spirit and purpose of our great institution are components that have remained steadfast. 2 years ago, I was viewing the campus muster ceremony of 2020 on a computer screen from my childhood bedroom. This was the first muster in history which had ever needed to take place in a fully virtual setting due to the onset of COVID-19. But today, I am so grateful to see that muster is back in full force. Reed Arena is packed like I've never seen it before, just as it should be for a day like April 21st. We are all finally able to be together in person to celebrate many lives well lived and so many Aggies well loved. Today, many names will be read off with a sense of permanence because they will be forever sealed in the Aggie spirit. The Aggie family stands together to remember those who we love, those who we don't even know, and maybe just some names that we've heard a few times here and there in passing. Even if you're sitting in the audience or you're watching the live stream and you don't know the name of a single individual who is called this year, that doesn't matter, for you know that the name of each of those Aggies is one who deserves to be celebrated. You know that through your participation in this tradition, their name and memory will continue to be cherished. You know that they lived a life guided by the Aggie core values of respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, and selfless service. Today, we remember that our fallen are never forgotten. It is my hope that as you leave here later this evening, you leave with a sense of comfort and peace from the embrace of the Aggie spirit which envelops us all tonight. Today, we choose to be united in solidarity in order to remember those who are no longer with us. Muster provides the opportunity to be there for the many members of our Aggie family, just as this same family will one day do for us. Thank you for participating in this special occasion. This speech is my final duty as student body president. It has been an honor to serve and represent the students of Texas A&M University over the course of this past year, and it is the greatest honor of my entire life to be able to conclude my term with the opportunity to speak to y'all about this time-honored tradition. I would like to close by emphasizing that as Aggies, we stand alongside you in your loss. Your loved one may be gone, but they are certainly not ever to be forgotten. Together, from howdy to here, we muster on, and we will continue to do so until the end of time. Please stand for the singing of the 12th man.
Texas Aggies down in Aggie land, we've got Aggie spirit to a man. Stand united, that's the Aggie theme. We're the 12th man on the team. When we're down, the going's rough and tough. We just grin and yell, we've got the stuff to fight together for the Aggie dream. We're the 12th man on that fighting Aggie team. Texas Aggies down in Aggie land. We've got Aggie spirit to a man. Stand united, that's the Aggie theme. We're the 12th man on the team. When we're down, the going's rough and tough. We just grin and yell, we've got the stuff to fight together for the Aggie dream. We're the 12th man on that fighting Aggie team.
Tonight, on April 21st, we muster together once again, gathering here in Reed Arena and around the world to remember and honor those we have lost. In a year marked by hopeful return to normality in the midst of startling recent events, the Aggie family comes together once again. As we take time to remember those we have lost, we are also reminded of the spirit of Aggieland, a spirit dedicated to living out those core values we as Aggies hold so close. It is my privilege to introduce now a man who truly understands this spirit and seeks to live out our university's values in his everyday life. Tonight, I have the incredible honor of introducing our guest speaker for the 2022 Campus Muster Ceremony, General Mark A. Welsh III. General Welsh was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, to Mark and Margaret Welsh. It was from his father, Mark A. Welsh Jr., class of 1946, that General Welsh was first introduced to Texas A&M University. What began as a father's deep pride for his alma mater became a family tradition. As General Welsh is the son of an Aggie, brother to 5 Aggies, father of 4 Aggies, and grandfather of a soon-to-be member of the Aggie class of 2026, with more grandchildren to follow. General Welsh also learned from his father the importance of a life of service. General Welsh graduated from the United States Air Force Academy in 1976 after earning a Bachelor of Science, at which point he began a 40-year career in the Air Force. During this time, he was privileged to lead an F-16 fighter squadron in combat, serve as the Commandant of the U.S. Air Force Academy, work as the Associate Director of Military Affairs at the Central Intelligence Agency, command the U.S. and NATO Air Forces, and serve as the 20th United States Air Force Chief of Staff. As Chief of Staff, he was a senior uniformed Air Force officer responsible for the organization, training, and equipping of 664,000 active duty, Guard, Reserve, and civilian forces serving in the United States and overseas. As a member of the Joint Chief of Staffs, he and other service chiefs functioned as military advisors to the Secretary of Defense, National Security Council, and the President. After retiring from the United States Air Force, General Welsh returned to Texas A&M University, where he has served as the Dean of the Bush School of Government and Public Service since August of 2016. Here at Texas A&M, he and the faculty and staff of the Bush School work with the entire Aggie family to help dedicated men and women prepare for lives of service to their fellow citizens. When General Welsh first sat down for lunch with myself and other students on the muster committee, we knew what an incredible privilege it was to meet a man who had dedicated so much of his life in service to this country. General Welsh's long and decorated career is certainly a testament to the caliber of his character, but the muster committee and I were pleased to discover within just a few minutes of our conversation that we were also speaking with a loud and very proud member of the Fightin' Texas Aggie family. It remains my conviction that General Welsh truly understands what it means to be an Aggie, and I am more than thrilled to hear what he has to share with us tonight. It is my honor to welcome General A. Welsh III.
Howdy. Thank you, Aaron. You know, as a non-Aggie, being invited to speak at muster is obviously an incredible honor. But I got to tell you, it's also a little bit intimidating, especially as I stand up here and look out at a 50-year class and think about the incredible things they've done to distinguish themselves and Texas A&M over the last 5 decades. And then as I look at the honored family members who join us tonight and realize that they've lost a part of themselves that can never be replaced. to both of those groups, welcome home. One of the coolest things about being invited to speak at the muster here on campus is that you get to spend time with the members of the muster committee. 30 incredible young men and women who have committed themselves completely to ensuring that this tradition not only doesn't die, but that it gets better and better and more meaningful over time. I'd like to thank the members of the muster committee along with President Banks for the privilege of being here and promise you that I'll try hard to be worthy of this moment. Before I start, I'd like to also acknowledge my wife, Betty, who's sitting somewhere over there in the dark and is furious at me right now for even mentioning her name. In my world, she's everything. But more importantly for tonight, she's the remarkable mother of 4 Aggies. And muster is all about the Aggie family. I love you, honey. So, why me? That was my first thought when the committee asked me to speak at this ceremony, and some of you may be asking the same question right now. I really don't know why the committee picked me. Maybe it's because it's good occasionally to look at yourself through someone else's eyes, someone who loves you. But I suspect at least part of the reason is because I was lucky enough, as Aaron mentioned, to be born into an Aggie family. Now, my mother, if I'm being honest, actually graduated from Arizona State University. But at her funeral last year, my sisters, my brother, and I were laughing because we have never heard those 3 words in our home since the day we were born, because we were clearly an Aggie family. My dad came to Texas A&MC in the summer of 1942, and like almost all his classmates, he left when he was old enough after his 5th year and was accepted into the Army Air Corps Aviation Cadet Program. He returned after the war and graduated with a class of 46. He was then recalled to active duty for Korea and decided to stay in the newly formed United States Air Force, where he served for 35 years. Dad was one of that incredible generation of Americans and Aggies who flew and fought in 3 wars. He was awarded the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross. He was even nominated for the Congressional Medal of Honor for a mission in Vietnam. He also found time somewhere along the way to be the best possible husband, father, and friend that any of his children could have imagined. He was the real deal. Dad died in May of 2008, and I miss him terribly every day. I think about him a lot. Many of you know exactly how I feel. The first day I drove onto campus in August of 2016 for my current job, arrived at the Bush School, I walked into my office, and I felt my dad. For the first time since he had died. Now, if I said that in most places, they'd think I was crazy. But I know you understand. Dad brought me to College Station for the first time when I was 6 years old. He wanted me to start learning the traditions, wanted me to feel a little bit of that spirit. And I've been in love with A&M ever since that day in 1960. Ironically, I didn't attend A&M because I wanted to be my dad. He was a fighter pilot, and the best way to get to pilot training was to attend the United States Air Force Academy, which I was lucky to do. But as Aaron mentioned, 5 of my 6 brothers and sisters are Aggies. In fact, my sisters Molly and Maureen are here with me tonight, both Aggies. 4 of our nieces and nephews are Aggies, and as Aaron also mentioned, all 4 of Betty and I's children. Our son Mark and his wife Ashley, both fighting Texas Aggie class of '01, are here tonight, along with that grandson Aaron mentioned, Jacob Welsh, who'll start at Mays in the fall, and the class of 2026, Zowie. My son John, I should mention that Mark also served as Corps Commander his senior year. He's deeply kind of dipped into Aggie land. My son John followed my path to the United States Air Force Academy and became an Air Force pilot. He was eventually medically grounded and then medically discharged and returned here to A&M to attend the College of Medicine. He graduated as a doctor from Texas A&M in 2012 and is now an ER doc in South Texas. Our son Matt has a degree in history from the College of Liberal Arts at A&M. He graduated in the class of '08. He served as the captain of the Aggie Rugby Club for 3 years and represented the university as a Division I All-American rugby player during that time. And our daughter Liz graduated with honors from the Business Honors Program at the May School with a Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2010. My dad was the first Aggie in our family. There are now 15 and counting. And his oldest son, the one who got away, is speaking at muster. I'm betting Dad's pretty proud tonight. And any day a kid can make his dad proud is a good day. Dad told me when I was very young that muster was at the very heart of what it meant to be an Aggie. And I've always believed that's true. I've been to muster in 12 different countries over the years. The last was in Normandy, France in 2019 with Betty and a wonderful group of traveling Aggies. Like many of you, I've also lit candles and answered for Aggie friends in war zones a long, long way from Texas. But easily my most memorable muster was in 2009. At that time, I was working at the Central Intelligence Agency, and my job was to help coordinate activity and operations between the Department of Defense and the Central Intelligence Agency. As part of that job, I had a trip to a combat zone in April of 2009. Now, Dad had died in early May the year before, so this was his muster. And I was going to have to miss it, and it was killing me. On the evening of April 20th, I flew with one other person into a small mountain valley. And after the helicopter dropped us off, we were picked up by a four-wheel vehicle and driven for a while to a mud compound in the middle of nowhere. And I was introduced to a team of people who were there doing the nation's work. These happened to all be men, and as I met the 5 men who were at that compound, I was struck immediately by one thing. There are a lot of people on this earth who like to consider themselves a badass. But these guys didn't have to consider anything. They wrote the book. Their mission there was to identify, locate, and go after evil and bring it to justice, one way or the other. Shortly after we got into the compound on that evening, after meeting them, we went to bed. We got up the next morning. We kind of learned a little bit about the region around us. Our mission there was just to learn about this operation, what they were doing, how it was working, what we could do to help improve it. They slept very late because they were nocturnal creatures. And late in the morning, they started telling us what they actually did and their mission there, the results they'd had, and how they thought we could help them going forward. They went to bed in the afternoon and slept for a number of hours, and we got together for a late dinner. At that dinner, I sat with the leader of this group, and somehow we got started talking about families. And he asked me about my parents, and I mentioned that Dad was an Aggie, and he looked up from eating and said, "Me too." And that turned into a whole other conversation about family connections to Texas A&M. There was one time during the meal where he paused, he was eating, he was quiet for a second, and then he looked up at me because I had told him when Dad had died, and he said, "You're missing your father's muster." And I said, "Yeah, it's killing me." We finished dinner. They headed off to get kitted up after a little bit for their mission that night, and I just hung around. I got a note from the guy who was with me to please meet them out at the compound at a certain time. He said, "Just walk out, they're going to be in the middle. They want to say goodbye before they take off for their mission," because we were going to leave later that night. I walked out into the compound, and the 5 of them are gathered in the middle of the compound. It's dark, but there's enough light I can see them. And as I approached the group, the first thing I noticed was how they looked. Geared up, ready to do their job, and the only word I can use to describe my feelings is that they were primal. That stuck with me. As I approached, my new Aggie friend reached his arm out and kind of pulled me in and put my arm over his shoulder, and we huddled in the middle of the compound, just a small 5-person huddle. And I'm thinking, what's this all about? And all of a sudden, one of them extends his arm, and he lights a Bic lighter. Another one says, softly call the muster. My Aggie friend says Colonel Mark A. Welsh, Jr., class of 46. And I answered for Dad. And just stared at that little flame in the middle of nowhere for about 10 seconds. And then it went out. The group didn't say anything. 4 of them just reached over and touched me, put a hand on my shoulder, squeezed my arm. One of them patted me on the head. I'm not sure what that was for. But I wasn't going to question him. And the last one was my new Aggie friend who put his hand on my shoulder and leaned into my ear and said, I will never forget your father. And then he gathered himself, and primal again, and turned and joined his team, and I watched them walk out of the compound into the night to do our nation's business. And after they left, I lost it. I just stood there in the middle of that compound, in the dark, sobbing, and thank God that my father was an Aggie. To this outsider, muster is a remarkable window into the spirit of Aggie land. It's also a wonderful time to reflect on why Texas A&M matters, why Aggies matter, and what this ceremony tonight is really all about. Good universities make an impact on their students, on their cities, on their states, even on their country. But great universities stand for something. And this is a great university. I have always believed that Texas A&M serves as a call to the sons and daughters of Texas, and increasingly other states and other nations, that you can be part of something greater than yourself, that you can do more than you ever thought possible, that you can dream big dreams, Texas-sized dreams, and you can achieve them. The 12th man is simply a call to a life of service. Aggie core values are a call to a life of distinction. And the Aggie Honor Code is a call to a life of honor. Texas A&M attracts, challenges, and prepares people who answer those calls. Great people, inspirational people, people like you. And then it makes them better. My children are better men and women. They're better husbands and wives, better mothers and fathers. They're better citizens because they came to Texas A&M. A&M makes Aggies better because it reinforces those things that mean the most to each one of us. Corny things. Things like faith and family, pride and patriotism, loyalty and respect, honor, integrity, courage. Things that we feel, all of us feel, even if we don't talk about them all the time. Those things matter here. For former students, I've always thought A&M served as a connection, maybe to a vision you once had of yourself, but certainly to an experience that was both intensely personal and commonly shared. When I say fish camp, or midnight yell, or silver taps, or the Fightin' Texas Aggie Band, or the quad, or bonfire, or G. Raleigh, fish sandwich, the Commons, now forming at the north end of Kyle Field, Miss Rev, Rudder, Good Bull, or simply the chicken. Something appears in your memory's eye, and a smile always comes to your face. That experience, this place, will always be part of you. That's not true everywhere. Most importantly, I think A&M remains a connection to those you shared it with. Your friends and classmates who over the years have led you, followed you, carried you, inspired you, consoled you, and constantly reminded you that Aggies don't just have pride. They also have great hearts. They have shoulders strong enough to help carry your burdens, and they have perpetually loyal souls. Tonight is testament to that. More than anything else, Muster is a celebration of them, those Aggies who lived their lives proudly, but no longer walk beside us. Some of them, against all human instinct, sacrificed themselves willingly in service to a nation they believed in enough to die for. Others were just overcome by life and all the things in it. Accidents, despair, disease, time. Muster matters because you come here, year after year after year, to remember them. When my youngest son, Matt, and daughter, Liz, were in high school, Betty and I were living in Germany. One year, she encouraged me to take the two of them over their spring break period to Normandy, France, to see the beaches and the battlefields and to show them that holy ground so they could learn and understand just a little bit of the experience that forged their grandfather into the incredibly special man he was. Liz was a pretty mature high school freshman at the time, and I was confident she'd appreciate the gravity of the things we'd see. Matt, on the other hand, was a testosterone-laden 16-year-old meathead. And I honestly didn't have any idea how he would react to the experience. But we went anyway. I still remember every minute of that trip. We stood at Pegasus Bridge and talked about the British glider assault that started the action of D-Day. We stood in front of the church at St. Mary Glees and talked about the courage of the paratroopers who fought and died there. We walked the beach at Arromanches and marveled at the logistical planning and the incredible innovation that partnered with raw courage to eventually make the invasion successful. We stood and we prayed together on both Omaha and Utah beaches. We visited Pointe du Hoc, and we marveled at James Earl Rudder's brilliance and his Rangers' courage and skill. And along the way, we discussed defensive fortifications and infantry tactics and airborne glider operations, mortar and artillery fields of fire and naval gunfire support, the fascinating and horrible language of war. And while they both tried, they simply couldn't understand it all. We finished at the American Cemetery in Brittany, St. James, which is the smaller and lesser known of the cemeteries where American soldiers from the invasion force are buried. And as we stood in that beautiful and haunting place with its perfectly aligned white crosses, I told Matt and Liz about the 4,410 Americans who were buried there. I pointed out the 20 sets of brothers who lay side by side for eternity. And I showed them the 498 names on the wall of the missing and reminded them that that meant 498 families who never recovered any part of their loved one. And all of a sudden, things just seemed to catch up with Matt. He suddenly just turned and walked away from us, over to the nearest grave. And he put his hand on the cold marble of that single white cross, and he broke down. Because that he could understand. Somehow, even as a 16-year-old, Matt intuitively understood that the enormity of our loss was not in the agonizing number of white crosses, but in what lay beneath each one. Muster is the same. What matters isn't the total number of names that will be read during roll calls at the 300-plus muster ceremonies around the world today. All that really matters is the one name that brought you here. Your mom or dad, your husband or wife, your sister or brother, your son or daughter, your partner, your roommate, your friend, that person whose memory you have committed to keeping alive. Because that's what Aggies do. It's why Aggies matter. It's what muster is all about. It's why I am so honored to be here with you. And it's why I am not at all ashamed to say I love you all. Tonight, I remember Colonel Mark A. Welsh, Jr., class of 46, my hero, my father, and my friend. And I remember Monica Marie Welsh, class of 1982, my hero, my sister, and my friend. I love you both, and I miss you. Softly call the muster. It's such a beautifully poetic line. And very shortly, it will be time to do exactly what it asks of us. I look forward to that. Amen. And giggle.
To mark the day, Aggies proudly stand, to honor those who've gone before to the promised land. Names called upon the roll, comrades answer here. Trumpets sound their sad goodbye to those we held so dear. All heads are bowed in silent pledge, never to forget, while rifles fire their last salute, echoes answer yet. To their memory will be true, we will take their place, one for all and all for one, ever in thy grace. We'll meet again another
Howdy. What an honor it is to be in Aggie land for muster this evening, one of the most sacred and time-honored traditions at Texas A&M. On behalf of the Association of Former Students, I want to thank Aggies for demonstrating the power of the Aggie spirit as we muster today. To the families of those we remember tonight, we are honored to have you with us, and we sincerely appreciate the mark your loved one has left on Texas A&M. I want to especially recognize the class of 1972, who celebrate 50 years as former students this year. We thank you for all that you have done and continue to do to impact Texas A&M. As we gather in College Station this evening, we are joined by Aggies around the world as we remember those for whom we answer here, and we celebrate the unique spirit which binds us together. Whether it's a formal event, such as the one we're experiencing tonight, or a gathering in a community center, or on a cruise ship, or in a combat zone, every muster event concludes with families and friends proudly answering the roll call for our departed loved ones. When we answer, we demonstrate our loyalty to one another and our respect for the importance of being an Aggie. Tonight, our roll call in Reed Arena honors our campus community. Earlier today in Aggie land, starting at sunrise, the full worldwide muster roll of more than 1,400 Aggies were called and answered with "here" for each and every name. Muster is indeed a powerful reflection of our renowned Aggie spirit, and it's a true testament to our worldwide Aggie network, which includes students, former students, parents, faculty, staff, and friends of Texas A&M. Thank you to everyone here and to all Aggies around the world who are watching Campus Muster online or who are gathering in person for muster gatherings. You continue to lead the Aggie network and make muster truly a global phenomenon. The Association of Former Students takes great pride in what you do, and we genuinely appreciate all that you do for Texas A&M. More than anything, I hope tonight leaves each and every one of us with a deeper respect and appreciation for Texas A&M and the core values that guide us, the individuals with whom we have shared our Aggie journey, and our commitment to keep them always present in our hearts. Muster's a sacred promise, and it's a promise that continues because of the dedication, reverence, and character displayed by the Aggies that went before us and those still present today. Thank you, and God bless.
Howdy. Today marks 100 years since Aggies began holding muster on April 21st each year. Over the last century, Aggies have seen hardships beyond counting. We've seen wars, depressions, recessions, sickness, grief, and loss. So many things have come and gone. We've seen nations rise and fall. We've seen the world around us change dramatically, time and time again. We've seen people we love born, and we've seen them pass. Yet through that, Aggies have endured. Texas A&M has endured. Muster has endured. As Aggies, we know this place is something special. We know that the traditions we hold so dear are the very things which make us who we are. The class of 1922 knew it. The class of 1972 knows it. And every Aggie who has ever had the honor and privilege to call Texas A&M home knows it too. But we often find it hard to explain to those who have not been so fortunate why we know it. We say, from the outside looking in, you can't understand it, and leave it at that. I say, the next time you're challenged to explain what makes Aggieland and the Aggie spirit and Texas A&M so special, you point to muster. You point to the tradition that has stood for 100 years, that stands as a promise and a commitment to remember the life of every Aggie and honor their legacy. Because regardless of race, religion, creed, origin, regardless of those things that individualize us, when you set foot on this campus and slip that ring on your finger and say, "Here," for those who are no longer with us, you are an Aggie, and that's all that matters. Being an Aggie can transcend divisions and hardships. It transcends whatever time you've spent away from our beloved campus and the miles between you and College Station. And when you pass from this life, it transcends that too, because Aggies will stand to answer here when you are absent. Our traditions and our university continue to withstand the test of time because of the men and women who have come before us. Men and women like those in the class of 1972 who have gathered here today for their 50th reunion to relive their days in Aggie land and honor those they've lost. Who have kept their heads held high and continued to remember what it means to be an Aggie, even when it seemed like the world was set against them. Men and women like those who have given their lives for our country, wearing that Aggie ring faithfully and proudly. Like the 12 who passed in the bonfire collapse, doing what they loved at the school they loved. And like our fellow Aggies we honor here today, who are bound to every other Aggie, past, present, and future, by the spirit that can never be told. I would like to thank them all for lighting the way for the rest of us, and for doing their part to make this university and this Aggie family what it is today. Please stand for the spirit of Aggie land.
Please be seated. Roll call for the absent. In many lands and climes this April day, proud sons of Texas A&M unite. Our loyalty to country school we pay, and seal our pact with bond of common might. We live again those happy days of yore, on campus, field, in classroom, hall, at drill. Fond memory brings a sigh, but nothing more. Now we are men, and life is one great thrill. On Fortress Isle 80 years ago today, a group of gallant Aggies, led by Moore, held simple rights, which to us all doth say, the spirit shall prevail, or cannon roar. They thought of home and all we hold most dear. Where are they now, those boys we knew so well? Ask of the winds, let smile repress a tear. Think only of their glory when they fell. Corregidor, forevermore a hallowed name to countless sons of Texans yet unborn. Symbolic like, it stands for deathless fame, a shrine sublime till resurrection morn. Softly call the muster, let comrade answer hear. Their spirits hover round us, as if to bring us cheer. Mark them present in our hearts, we'll meet some other day. There is no death, but life etern for heroes such as they.
Tonight, as we celebrate the campus muster ceremony, we represent one of many gatherings, no one more important than another. We light this candle and bring to life the enduring spirit of muster and all Aggies who we have honored throughout the years and will honor tonight. May this candle serve as representation of the collective togetherness that muster affords us and signify that the spirit that flows through each ceremony is the same. Let this spirit breathe life into the memory and legacy for all whom we softly call the muster. Will the candle holders please rise? Chance McKay Gibson, class of 2025. Weston Allen Miller, class of 2025. Kirsten Owero, class of 2024. David James McLeod, class of 2024. Samantha Lee Melanson, class of 2024. Miss Brittany Gavitt, class of 2023. Mr. Jason Robert Gentry, class of 2023. Miranda Elizabeth Mitchell Meckel, class of 2023. Kimberly Nicole Hartfield, class of 2022. Jeffrey Adam Darrow, class of 2022. Josh Cameron Bowerly, class of 2022. Justin Ray Magtubo, class of 2022. Devin Sebastian, class of 2022. Barthi Shahani, class of 2022. Earl Clifford Butler IV, class of 2021. Rocky Setiawan, class of 2021. Jacob Towns Harden, class of 2021. Sarah Margaret Solis, class of 2016. Miss Ginger Elaine Yonts, class of 2000. James Michael Light, class of 1999. Ryan Barton, class of 1998. Ronald Wayne Davis, class of 1996. Andrea Lee Potts, class of 1996. Mrs. Aura Lynette Gramala, class of 1994. Jose Arturo Sabarzo Lopez, class of 1994. Dr. Janice Suzette Petrie, class of 1994. Mr. Aaron Andrew Salgi, class of 1993. Colonel Michael Wayne Cobb, class of 1991. Eric Givalence, class of 1991. Colonel Ricardo Martinez, class of 1990. Mary Lillian McCloskey Sedbrook, class of 1990. Shannon Lee Smith, class of 1990. Catherine J. Greenwade, class of 1988. John Patrick High, class of 1988. Stephanie Lanier, class of 1987. Gary Dwayne Hale, class of 1986. David Charles Steele, class of 1986. Mr. Warren Sumner, class of 1985. Michael L. Maciel, class of 1984. William R. Hughes, Jr., class of 1983. Jeff Charles Whitaker, class of 1983. Brent Marshall Brentzel, class of 1981. Mark Roth, class of 1981. Wilburn Joseph Laughlin, class of 1978. Chuck Hinton, class of 1976. Joel Urbanky, class of 1976. Alan Richard Anderson, class of 1972. Sherman W. Baranowski, class of 1972. William B. Collins, class of 1972. Timothy Collins, class of 1972. Mr. Tony Jim Corso, class of 1972. Larry Allen Davis, class of 1972. Raymond DeMiliano, class of 1972. Michael D. Donegan, class of 1972. John T. Foote, Jr., class of 1972. Roger Garnsey, class of 1972. James Hubert, class of 1972. Mark King, class of 1972.
Raymond Henry Kopecki, Jr., class of 1972. Stephen Lieb, class of 1972. Dr. Melvin A. Newman, class of 1972. Barbara Loveno, class of 1972. Dwayne Negrin, class of 1972. David Homer Reddy, class of 1972. Edward Schmeltz, class of 1972. Carl F. Schneider, Jr., class of 1972. Dr. Paul Allen Siebert, class of 1972. Mr. Billy Wayne Smith, class of 1972. Mr. Lucher Stark, class of 1972. Lyle Stein, class of 1972. Gregory Trimble, class of 1972. Donnie Vance Yates, class of 1972. Brenda D. McGuire, class of 1972. Stephen Colwell Voss, class of 1971. Lieutenant Colonel Albert Hamilton Traub, Jr., class of 1970. Richard Poling, class of 1969. Sam Stavinaugh, class of 1968. Dr. Roy B. Young, class of 1968. Dr. Joe Townsend, class of 1967. Joseph Stanley Britt Jenkins, class of 1965. Alex Quisenberry, class of 1965. William Ray Watts, class of 1965. Travis Roland Brass, class of 1964. Gary Nolan Johnson, class of 1964. Dan Penaloza, class of 1964. Thomas William Dabney, class of 1962. Dr. Eldred E. Cahey, class of 1962. Hubert D. Nelson, class of 1962. Stephen Lee Johnson, class of 1961. Mr. Roy Stanley Skinner, class of 1961. Robert Rip Van Winkle, class of 1960. Mr. Robert A. Collins, class of 1959. Mr. David F. Eby Sr., class of 1958. Justin O. McSpadden, class of 1957. Alvin Groves, class of 1955. William R. Corky Pinch, Jr., class of 1955. Sion L. Warnicki, class of 1955. Nicholas Alexander, class of 1954. Mr. Gary Lee Anderson, class of 1952. Donald Blair Austin, class of 1952. Mr. C. Harvey Carr, class of 1950. Dr. Neil Ross Gerwitz, class of 1950. Dr. Robert Dean Chenoweth, class of 1947. Mr. Philip Abbott Mascalette, class of 1946. Arthur Angulo. Dr. Jack K. Campbell. Mark Ray Edwards. Dr. Anatoly Goshev. Dr. Larry J. Kelly. Dr. William Robert Clem. Dr. Carrie K. Litzenberg. Miss Anne Arundel Locker Thaddeus. Dwayne Lovingood. James Edward Maycheck. Forster Ndubisi. Charles Rodenberger. Mark these names forever in our hearts.
Please extinguish your flame and be seated. In Memoriam by Lieutenant Colonel David Harrigan, class of 1968. We stood a little taller and a little prouder then when we heard the call of muster and the roll call just began. We stood there all together and wiped away the tears when our names were called out softly and answered with a "here." And so we've joined together with our brothers of the past to make our final resting place at Aggieland our last. We take a toast to our brotherhood, wherever they may roam. For us, the trek is over. Aggieland, we're coming home.
In 1942, E. McQuillan, Executive Secretary of the Association of Former Students and Class of 1920, sent a message to the chairman of each Aggie muster worldwide. In this message was included a traditional closing of the ceremony that has remained an integral part of many musters to this day. George Hester, Class of 1972, will now stand and dismiss the muster. Sir, the 2022 campus muster at Texas A&M University is completed.
I charge you each to remain firm in your loyalty to humanity and to your country. Keep warm in your hearts your affection for each other and for your alma mater. The muster is dismissed until April 21st, 2023, and may good fortune smile upon us all until we meet again.